everybody. Welcome to the WildStar live stream. My name is Stephan Frost. I'm the design producer here at Carbine Studios. With me, Hugh Shelton.
Hi, I'm the class lead.
So today what we're going to do is discuss the Engineer in its now announced glory.
Yeah, neither of us have to worry about leaking it, and we can show it off.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So we're going to get through a few housekeeping things here, and then we'll just dive right into the Engineer. So we have another one of these that we need to do, live stream. I mean, we haven't gone over the Stalker yet.
Yep. He will come from the shadows.
He will.
Next year.
Yes.
Early next year.
Early next year. We're going to take a break for the holidays, and we will go over the Stalker, so don't worry your pretty little head if you're worried about that. We will go over the Stalker, I promise. So we also would love it if you could tell your friends about this. Twitch.tv/WildStar. Get the hype out for this, man, because we want to be going over this stuff.
Please do.
We also have the Ultra Drop stuff that is coming to the conclusion, I guess, this week.
Well, for the classes, at least.
Yeah, for the classes, we've got that Ultra Drop.
Our time to shine is ending. It's.
Oh, dude, it's just beginning.
And
I'll tell you why it's just beginning, because we've had a lot of people streaming WildStar. I don't know if you guys have seen this here on Twitch. There's been a lot of people that have been streaming WildStar. It's been a ton of fun. You've even photobombed.
Yeah, I've done cameos. Some people call it stream sniping, but I go after some of the streamers, have a little bit of fun. I'm usually on the opposite side because most of them are Dominion.
What's funny is I'm at home watching the stream, and X streamer is running around, and then Hugh's CRB_Hugh.
Well, no, I'm usually on odds. You'll usually find me on odds. I'll be on odds stock, odds, Spellsinger, AODZ.
Sure. And then Hugh just kind of jumps in and just jumping around. They're like, oh my gosh, that's Hugh Shelton. So look for Hugh if you're playing in beta, and if you're watching the stream, watch for those photobombs. You know what I mean?
I'll be there.
What else we got going on? We have a new designer to introduce to you guys today. Stephan is our class designer for the Engineer.
I looked the wrong way. I should have looked this way. There's Stephan. Stephan's over there. I don't know why I looked the other way.
Hi, Hugh. Hey, Stephan, so tell us what you do here at Carbine.
Right now, I am the principal designer for the Engineer. I'm also in charge of balance, and recently took over the Spellsinger. Very
cool. So today we're going to be talking with Hugh, we're going to be talking with Stephan, and we'll get really in-depth here with the Engineer. So also, if you have questions for us, please feel free to contact us at #WSLive. Put your questions in there. We're going to get to a lot of them today, so if you got some good ones, please tweet at us.
Yep. We'll be listening.
So we also have a dev speak for the Engineer coming up here. We want to introduce that really quick. If you haven't seen this yet, this is the opportunity. Let's check it out.
Let's check it out.
Welcome to WildStar. This is DevSpeak.
This is the disclaimer.
It's finally time to throw back the curtain on the Ron Popeil of classes. The Engineer. Our goal with the Engineer was to make a heavy-range tank class that uses do-it-yourself gadgets and bots to destroy things. It's a pet class that doesn't play like a pet class. Basically, we put Inspector Gadget in a monster truck. Now, Engineers come packing with heavy armor, launchers, bots, an exosuit, and a ShamWow. Yo, dog, we heard you like bots. So we put some bots with your bots, so you can kill things while you kill things. The Engineer has bots for tanking, DPS, CC, and heals. Every bot has an ability, and you hold the trigger. She also uses her launcher to fire out experimental projectiles, like this, or this, or call an artillery strike. Your heavy armor not heavy enough? No problem. Just activate the limited edition Mark IV exosuit. It makes you better at everything. What this means is, it's the Engineer's choice to either hang back in DPS mode to dish out long-range damage, or switch to tank mode and wade through the battlefield. Like an actual tank. So that's the Engineer in a nutshell. Hit up our site for more details about this mechanical monstrosity. Oh, that social media. Good thing the devs are listening.
All right, so we're back with some in-game footage here. Apologies, we had to cut Stephen's camera. I know his family super excited to see him on the stream.
And his fans.
And his fans. But he's going to be a disembodied voice now. He's going to be off camera. You hear him talking. That's him weeping openly. And a ghost impression, apparently, that he's doing for us as well. So anyway, let's get into this. Hugh, Stephen, why don't you tell us about the engineer?
All right, we'll let Stephen jump into this. He'll start playing through stuff, so go ahead, Stephen, and I will give you a little overview of the engineer. You kind of got most of this from the dev speak, but I'm sure you want to hear it from my voice. So the engineer is kind of like this do-it-yourself engineer, right? He's an engineer, so he makes stuff. Right. He's got this launcher, which it's kind of experimental. When you use your attacks, it's building up something called volatility, which is your class resource, and that lets you shoot off some more energy type experimental things that you'll see going on.
Right. So as we're going through here, we're seeing a few things. Now, this ability that you just used is marking targets, actually, and you can mark up to 12, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, we will definitely cover that.
Yeah. So we're using a few things here. You'll notice the engineer also has bots.
He does. So yeah, so besides the launcher, he has the bots, which are, he can have up to 2 bots at a time. He has 4 total bots to choose from, and you can have any combination of those bots. And they're kind of, they have utility for every purpose. So you have 1 bot for tanking, you have 1 bot for DPS, you have a bot for CC, you have a bot for healing shields. So you have a lot of variety in there. And then on top of that, the engineer also comes packed with heavy armor. So he can take quite a bit of punishment, which means his overall DPS output's a little bit lower than something like the Spell Singer or the Esper. So it's a different gameplay style.
Right.
And then some other things that really set him apart are that, or her apart, are that using your cast time abilities, you can use them while moving around, but they'll slow you down. So you have this heavier feeling to the engineer when you compare it to some of the other classes.
Right, very cool. So by the way, we're in a ship hand mission. For those of you not familiar with what a ship hand mission is, it's kind of like this leveling dungeon, but it's not really like a hardcore dungeon where you're in a corridor and you have to have a bunch of people to do this. This actually scales, so if Stephen wanted to bring in friends, he could do that, or he could just come in here solo and kind of do these. It's, if you're kind of like, I don't want to be on the planet anymore, I want to go up into space and do cool things, that's what you can kind of do here, so that's where we're at. So let's talk about the 2 bots that are out right now. What do these bots do, and why are they interesting and unique?
So right now he has the Bruiser bot, which is his bot that's used for tanking. The Bruiser bot comes with an auto attack that is going to do a 360, which means it's hitting multiple targets, multiple enemies nearby. It's the only bot right now that actually, with their auto attack, hits multiple targets. He also generates a good amount of threat so that he's able to tank for you while you're doing solo content. And on top of that, all the bots have an activatable ability that is it's on your action bar, and you're able to aim that just like you are any of your other freeform attacks, and he will leap at the target, interrupting them. It looks like we're running into a little bit of a technical glitch here, but we'll get that addressed as long as he moves over. I think you have to move over to the other side of the map here. We are in closed beta, so we do have a couple of glitches here and there. It's not that big of a deal. But anyway, like I was saying, all of the bots have those activatable abilities. The Bruiser bot taunts when you tell him to leap to an area. So he'll leap to this area, he'll taunt, he'll also interrupt anybody that's casting. So it's just a nice utility ability.
So let's talk about how you command these robots and how you do it. We get a lot of questions on how you use this pet class effectively. So can you can use it by hitting the ability to summon them.
Yeah.
Right. And we also have bot commands you can see on the action bar there.
Yeah. So you have the ability to summon them. So now they're out there. They're a permanent pet that will be sticking with you the whole time that they're summoned. If they die, they'll go on a 15-second cooldown. And actually, you know what? We totally forgot to let Stephen go through his build.
Oh yeah,
we should let him do that.
Yeah, let's take through that.
He'll give us a lot of details, and we won't have to talk about it all ourselves.
Yeah, fair enough. So Stephen, hold on. While you're, we should be closing portals
that
are leaking into the ship hole here.
The environmental hazards might start hitting me.
Yeah, but at the very least, let's talk about this build.
Okay. So the first ability here is Pulse Blast. It's your basic attack. It does a massive amount of damage in the center cone, and that has 2 smaller cones on the outside that do decreasing amounts of damage.
Why don't you fire that off a couple times so they can see it in action, so they get a sense for it.
Yeah.
Just keep doing that as you're talking about these other ones.
The next one is
we have Tactical Strike.
Tactical Strike. Tactical strike puts a mark on your target. You can basically spray the entire amount of mobs that are in front of you, and it marks them, and at the end it does massive amounts of damage to them.
And what's cool is that's kind of like an orbital strike that kind of
yeah,
right?
it's like you're actually like lasing a target and having to call down an aerial strike.
Right. Frost was calling that out earlier. We'll call that out again later on.
Alrighty. The next one is a really cool ability that I love. It's Urgent Withdrawal. So you do damage in that circle in front of you and snare the targets, and then you propel yourself backwards 8 meters. And it has 2 charges, so I could like jump back and then change my direction, jump again.
Right.
And you can also do that 2 times while you're in the air, so
Yep.
you can do it without hitting the ground.
And you can do it while jumping, right?
Yep. And if you want to get a little bit more distance, you do it while jumping.
So in PvP, that has saved my ass numerous times. Just want to point that out.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
This one requires you to have volatility, 60 volatility. It's very substantial. It's Mortar Strike. It's something that, as you can kind of see, there's a deeper telegraph in the center. It hits for a massive amount of damage if you can catch people in it, and then lesser damage on the outer sides. This is a really just beefy skill shot. The next one's Zap. It's a stun and does damage. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Oh, it looks like you just hit your innate ability. You kind of just let the cat out of the bag. You're like,
you know what? I'm tired of
like,
showing these abilities.
so
It's time to show the innate.
Let's zoom in on this, dude, because this is a pretty cool.
Turn off your UI too, so people can really get a good
view of it. So you get this tech suit that you can launch into, and it gives you. There's 2 stances you can have in this tech suit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's 2 ways of accessing it. You have your provocation mode, which is your tanking stance, and you have your eradication mode, which is your DPS stance. We'll talk about provocation mode once we get over to the dungeon, and maybe I'll call it eradication once we're in the PvP.
Sounds good.
So Zap, really simple ability, stuns. Quick Burst. This can only be fired after landing a critical hit. It does a lot of damage in the conical shape. Seeing as I haven't crit yet, I can't fire it off right now.
This is just another one of those abilities. Like we wanted to add things to the game that weren't always on cooldown. They weren't always off your resource. We just wanted them to kind of pop up while you're in the middle of combat, change up your pacing.
And then we have the bots.
Okay, the first ability here is the bot ability Blitz. It's given to you after you've summoned your Bruiser bot. Basically, you aim it, and you hit a target, and it commands the Bruiser bot to leap to that target, do AoE damage, taunt, and interrupt all the targets in the area.
Gotcha. And then our second bot, Homie, as well.
Yep. This is Artillery Bot's Barrage. It works the same as the Bruiser bot. You command it to go to hit a target. This one actually fires a barrage. It's a channeled AoE on the target.
Go ahead
area.
and fire that off, since I think you don't need a target for that, correct?
You do need a target.
Oh, you
for
do?
that.
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Look at me. Who am I?
You'll see it when we're playing through. I like to use the bot commands a lot.
So let's close some of these hull breaches,
Yeah,
so we
let's
don't
do
suffocate to death here.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mission here. So we're gonna do this, and as we make some more progress, we're gonna take some questions here really quick. So again, hashtag WS Live is how you submit these questions if you want to get them in. So
we're waiting for a question to come in, and we'll get it. Why don't I? So there's the artillery bot barrage. You saw that big area around where the bot was firing down. Stephen's doing some pulse blasts. He's doing his he's using all his abilities. You know?
Yeah,
he's doing a good job.
like a pro.
He's actually handling things.
So let's take question number 1. Do engineer bots spawn for a certain amount of time, or do they die quickly when positioned in enemy telegraphs? From Ian Rasmussen.
So when you summon them out, they last permanently. So that is until they get destroyed. So if they are standing in enemy telegraphs, they'll get destroyed after a certain amount of time, depending on the strength of those telegraphs. But
the cooldown is not that harsh, though.
Yeah, it's 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So you're able to pull them back out without too much time.
Right, and you can see a little bit of the tanking element in here as well. Just as a background as well, this class can be both DPS and a tank.
Yep, we forgot to mention that. It's something that people might not be used to, having a ranged tank, but it's something that fits WildStar really well, especially when you have bosses and creatures that are doing telegraphs and standing still.
Right, most definitely. So let's take another question. This one comes from Vial. It seems like engineers seem less mobile than most classes. For DPS, that doesn't get benefits from being extra tanky. What skills are available to control a fight or give you breathing room?
Well, so the engineer, while you're not as mobile as a spell slinger or a medic or stuff like that, you are able to cast while on the move. So you are able to kind of wade through at that reduced speed as you're using your abilities. But since you have that heavy armor, you're able to take that damage, and since you're able to tank at a range, you're able to position yourself away from the bosses. So it's a little bit different style of play where you're kind of prepping yourself to be out of the danger zone by, you know, getting into a jet and flying around. Danger zone reference. Sorry about that.
Well done. Have that Top Gun reference somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But besides that, you also have Urgent Withdrawal, which we showed off, which you use it twice to leap backwards. You don't actually have any gap closers as an engineer because you already have that huge range and that huge armor that we didn't think it was necessary to give you a gap closer.
Okay. So another question here. In PvE, are bots considered in your own aggro radius?
I think that they mean that do bots add to the aggro that you have? And no, they have their own aggro pools. So a artillery bot is going to be attacking things and he's going to be aggroing them himself. So if you were to send your bots into a fight without you, they will get aggro early on in the fight. The creatures will attack them.
Sure.
And that's something that you usually want with your bruiser bot, but it's not something you really want with the artillery bot.
Indeed. So you'll notice that, again, we're using these bots pretty readily for this the tanking stuff and using our DPS abilities quite well. Look at, you barely took any damage, dude. Well done.
Yeah, actually, I do want to point out something. So in this most recent build that we sent to beta, it's something that maybe a lot of you have been seeing on streams here and there. The kill times are actually kind of fast. That's something that we've been tweaking. We're experimenting with a little bit shorter kill times, and that might change a couple more times before we launch.
And when we did that, actually, we were looking at the telegraphs being a lot more painful.
Oh, yeah, they definitely are.
Yeah, so if you get stuck in one of those telegraphs, you're definitely going to get hurt. So you got to avoid them. But it also means we're reducing our kill times. It's a balancing act that we kind of walk through on a regular basis.
It looks like people keep asking us, do bots, are they come back? Yes, bots do. If they die, you definitely, they go on a cooldown, but you're able to resummon them.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And you can also desummon them if you want to.
Yeah, you can desummon. If you desummon them, they also go on a cooldown.
Right. Well done, sir. So yeah, we pulled a couple. Your bot also went over there to taunt that guy. So you'll notice that telegraph that he just fired off again has a circle effect, but in the core, it actually has more damage. So
yep.
Skill is a huge thing for us in WildStar. We want to make sure that when you're playing this game, if you are skilled, you're going to get rewarded for marking your targets correctly.
And there's a lot of ways to be skilled in a game like this. There's just the aiming of it. There's the ability cadence usage, making sure that you're using your class resource efficiently, like you have a good ability rotation.
Right.
There's being able to move out of the way of enemy telegraphs, so positioning yourself well. And yeah, so we definitely want there to be a variety of skill types that excel in WildStar.
Sure. So let's take another question. Will the engineer's bruiser bot taunt work on players?
Yeah, so the bruiser bot's taunt works the way that our other taunts in WildStar work, where the victim of the taunt will actually do less damage to anybody other than the taunter. So the bruiser bot taunts a group of players. All those players are now doing reduced damage to any other target besides that bruiser bot.
So as a heads up, we will also go through some PvP stuff later today so we can see some of that stuff in action.
And I think after we finish up with this pull, we should have that second build come up.
Yeah, we'll show another sort of way to attack these guys and make sure that they're good and dead.
Yeah, so the reason for this second build is that a lot of people have been asking, hey, do you have to have bots? Is the engineer a pet class? The engineer is a pet class, but it also kind of depends on your playstyle and your action set. So Stephen's just switched builds, and he's going to walk us through this build that has no bots whatsoever. It completely relies on your launcher and you as the engineer.
So yeah, let's take a look at these abilities one by one. Pulse Blast. What's going on with Pulse Blast, Stephen?
Pulse Blast. It's pretty
the
much
same-
the
We
same
skipped
thing
that.
as last time.
Same builder.
Does the same thing. We have Energy Auger. Energy Auger does a massive amount of damage to the front and then leaves an area of denial field there. Basically, people that go through it will receive damage.
This is actually a really good tool for pulling. You do that upfront damage, the mobs run at you, they're taking damage the whole way.
This is also a charged ability, so it takes you about, what, 3 seconds before you could fire it off.
It's it's got a good cast time on it.
Yeah.
The next one is Shock Pulse. But you fire 3 beams in front of you. Each beam hits individually and does an amount of damage and snares the targets.
So basically, if you hit somebody with all 3 of those, you're going to do more damage. Is
Yeah.
that correct? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Very cool.
Electrocute, much like Mortar Strike, uses volatility. This is going to do a channel effect in front of you. It's got a really cool look to it. I like it a lot.
It's an instant channel on that one as well, right? Yeah, that one's clutch for doing your DPS.
Bolt Caster, it's a line, much like the others, but you charge it up and it increases.
Yeah, so
As you
there's
go.
only that one line at first, but it actually spans out to be 5 lines by the time you fully charge it up. And again, the more lines you hit, the more damage you do.
We have Quick Burst again.
Definitely good. That one comes if you have a
Yep.
critical hit. That one will pop up for you to use.
Critical hit.
That was in the last build also.
Yeah.
Yep. And the 7th one should be...
Personal defense unit.
Well, actually, it
it's
looks like
actu-
our bar is a little messed up.
it's-
We should actually be Obstruct Vision. That's a blind, which does that point blank
that's
AoE.
right.
It's kind of an alternative to Zap, or you could take
Yeah.
both those on your bar. Both of them destroy Interrupt Armor. They're both good CCs, but
So let me ask you guys a question. Blind is perfect for PvP because you're playing around and you want to blind somebody, you want to mess with their vision.
yeah, why
so
don't we
you
have
can do
Stephen
that.
jump back into this as we
Okay.
So
jump in.
what happens when you're using it in a PvE experience? What does that do to enemies?
So if you use it in PvP or PvE, it's going to actually make the creatures kind of wander around.
Okay.
So they're
So
kind of be like,
disorient.
yeah, they're kind of disoriented. They don't really know what to shoot at, what to aim at. They're kind of just
Definitely
distracted
useful.
for a little while. Yeah.
So yeah, you'll notice Energy Auger there has a little bit of a cast time in that. See, that Telegraph is staying around, and so you can actually trail guys into that,
Mhm.
and they'll be taking that damage.
Yeah, and you kind of can use it to lay down an area where players might want to avoid. Something that I want to call out for this build is, besides the fact that he doesn't have bots, it's also kind of a more sustained damage build because he has that field that does the damage over time. He has Electrocute, which is a channel which does damage constantly. So he's not very spiky
Right.
in
Now,
terms of his damage.
See, look at this. This
Yep.
is perfect, right?
Yep.
Starts it out. The monster is now coming at you in that damage field, and then you can also just fire off your
And
other
I'm gonna
DPS abilities.
launch a PDU there for later.
There we go.
So he just
just
placed
in
it.
case.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
just
that
placed the
glowing
PDU.
thing right there. Is a
We didn't
PDU.
actually talk about that.
Yeah. What is a PDU?
That's one of the utility abilities that the engineers have, which once you pick that up, it gives you a armor buff, and it also at the end of the buff it restores shields. So it's a
It's good heal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good.
it's good to put out there. And can other people touch that as well if they want to get that heal, or is it only the engineer?
It's only for the engineer. Those are engineer specific.
Okay.
The engineer does have a way to heal ally shields, and that's with the repair bot.
By the way, that dude violently puking and then turns into a monster when you try
Yeah,
to-
he
to
turned
try to
into a
heal him.
monster.
Yeah, so we tried to save him. He was puking his guts out and then just turned into.
It kind of looked like you pushed him over the edge when you.
Yeah,
clicked
man.
on him.
I think you're supposed to heal him, and he's exploding into other creatures.
Yeah, I'm a jerk. I'm sorry.
You're trying, man. It's okay. So this is another really interesting thing about WildStar in general in our combat. You notice he's doing those cast abilities, but he's moving at the same time.
Yeah.
So that cast bar will fill up, and you can fire it off at 1 second in, and you're just not going to have something that's nearly as powerful. But now, what happens if you say jump or sprint, or what breaks that?
So yeah, if you do a dash or if you sprint, you can't actually cast it while you're sprinting. So it'll fire it off. Those charge and release abilities specifically. So he only has a couple of those charge and release abilities, but they do give you more flexibility in that you can fire them off whenever you want to,
Sure.
and you'll get something out of it rather than it being wasted.
So what we're going to do after you're done with this pull, let's go do some duel in action. So we're
And-
gonna kill this guy off. I don't know if you guys heard about this or know what Vine is for that matter. It's basically this little 6-second video that you can create. And we had a competition for the community. You just did #WildStar, and we were going to pick the top ones to get WildStar beta keys. So we went through a couple of them, and I have to say that we were
kind of laughing.
We were
a little
devastated by how funny
Yeah,
these things
some
were.
of these things were pretty hilarious.
Yeah. So I want to say thank you for everybody that
Yeah,
submitted
definitely.
those. And if you have a Vine app, or if you just want to go check it out on online, go check out Vine and do #WildStar, and you can see all of the submissions that we got. They're pretty damn funny.
So we're still waiting on a couple questions here. If you guys could fill us in on those, that would be spectacular.
Love that. So while we're doing getting that stuff ready to go, what we're going to do is show the duel. We're coming in. We're going to be in exile now. So we're going to see we've got a Mordesh engineer now, and we're paired up with our Granok homie, who is a medic.
Yes, he's a big old medic.
There we go. So now what we want to show off in this is the 2-on-2 aspect of things. And we're with Merkal, who, if you guys have watched the live streams, that's Mark Motzenbacher, who is the medic and warrior class designer. So he's going to be helping us out. We're in a Dominion area, which is not exile friendly. So I'll point that out. So we got to be careful of guards, and we got to be careful of those two buddies across the way that you can see in red there. Oh, we just leveled up, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Get some. I just wanted I had to do the announcement.
Some people
I
love
did
it.
the appropriate level.
Yeah.
Some people love it. Some people hate it. I think most people love it.
I love the hell out of it, but I'm also huge into metal, so that looks super metal to me. So you definitely know when you level up.
So why don't we get some of these duels going?
Yeah. So
do this.
let's start this, man. I mean, those dudes look like they're talking some mean-ish.
I guess I shouldn't have said duel. It's actually a 2-on-2.
It's a
not really
2-on-2. It's a tool. Duel. 2-on-2.
So they're going.
Yeah.
So the Stephan is actually a tank right now. So we're kind of showing off the fact that you can tank in PvP. He has ability to taunt enemies. He has the ability to soak up a lot of damage. He's able to block skill shots. So it looks like the other two guys, that's actually Nick and Brett, who have been on some of our other live streams. It looks like they're trying to focus down Mark because he's the healer. And so ideally, Stephan would be doing some taunts on here to reduce the amount of damage that they're dealing to Mark.
See,
Mark's taking a lot of punishment though.
So Mark's down.
So Mark's down.
So you can. I think Stephan's got a chance here. Though,
This would be a great time to use his innate, I would say, because
Yeah.
it's going to stop him from taking any sort of punishment.
Oh man, we just
Oh,
got
he got
CC'd there. So we've got that breakout gameplay.
So he used his innate. Now he's so he's in his tank innate. This means he's going to be taking a lot less damage. His armor's like greatly increased.
and his damage is increased pretty.
Not in your tank mode.
Oh, in tank mode,
When
that's
you're
right.
in eradication mode, you're actually able to put out a lot more damage. But when you're in tank mode, it's really more just for that survivability.
The other thing to notice that is very. See, we were just in the heal area
Oh,
there.
just got blind again.
Oh man, so blind again. We were talking about that earlier. That is a devastating CC in PvP.
Yeah, besides actually affecting your screen, it also reduces your chance to hit with your attacks.
Right. So the bots, we just pulled them out to hopefully get some help tanking on there. It's not looking good for Stephan though. I'm
Now
gonna be
he
honest
put
with
up a
you.
valiant effort, but
Yeah.
he's actually joined all the other class designers in dying on the stream, and I'm very disappointed in all of them at this point.
Oh.
And no, I will not be streaming me playing because I will never die on stream. On this stream.
I think we'll figure out a way to do it somehow.
Yeah, maybe
we'll figure it
somehow.
out. So let's get rezzed here really.
Yeah,
quick.
why don't they keep
Mark is
Why
gonna
don't they
res
keep
me.
going through a couple of these duels, and why don't we answer some of these questions that have come in?
Yes, most definitely. So, question the first. What types of escapes will be available to the engineer for PvP? Are there any teleports or jumps to get out of range quickly? That's from Scuzz DP7.
So like I was saying before, the engineer has a lot of advantages, but being able to get out of the way or being able to quickly disengage isn't really one of those strengths. He does have that ability that leaps him backwards, urgent withdrawal. It's not a huge distance though, and it does snare. So that's basically the only tool that you have to get out of dodge quickly as an engineer,
Yeah.
besides your sprinting and
what's great about it too, though, is you can use those charges like tap tap and get out of the way to use them really
or you
quickly.
can, or if you only need to get back a little bit, you can use it, and then if you want to hold on to that second charge, use it later on. You can.
Right. So let's talk about this fight. What's going on here? It seems like we're getting more damage off, so that's good.
Yeah, it looks like they actually were concentrating their damage.
Nice.
They weren't. It looks like they're actually trying to focus Stephan this time a little bit more, which is not the best strategy.
No.
Just because an engineer, ton of armor, he's in a tank stance.
That was really quick. Well done, guys. Well done. You made up for it right there.
Yeah, we had to.
Yeah, that was clutch.
Why don't you try to mix up your build here a little bit, try to get rid of those bots, and do something with some more taunts to show off the fact that you can reduce the damage. And maybe hopefully they can try to go after the medic again and see if you can help keep him alive.
So while we're doing that, let's go with another question. What are the downsides or limitations of using the engineer's exosuit?
So this is something that at the moment there aren't really that many limitations. You know what? It's just kind of it's just kind of the best thing you ever want.
It's a little awesome now.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So
they're fighting without me.
Oh,
that's not very. That's very,
man,
not
you know
very
what?
nice of them.
Use that setting, get in there, help him out, man. There you go.
It doesn't look like he was able to change his
So,
build because of that. 'Cause he got into combat. You can't actually change your action sets when you're in combat.
A little bit of an unfair advantage there to start out with, but you know what? I have faith in you, Stephen.
You can do this.
You're gonna do it.
You can do this. To answer that question though, what was the question again? I just forgot what it was.
To be honest with you, totally forgot.
Oh man, it's like we can't even pay attention for 2 seconds.
Yeah, so anyway, we do have another question that's written down. We're like Ron Burgundy. You have to type it down. We read it, and we will read it verbatim. Otherwise, we just forget it. Exosuit downsides, that's what it was.
Oh, it looks
So,
like they just got another win. Good job, guys.
well done, even though those guys kind
Good
of
job.
came in.
Let's keep this going. I think it's good. I think it's a good
We'll do another
background
one
for these
yeah,
questions.
the downsides to the exosuit.
Oh,
right
yeah,
now
that's right.
they're a limited amount, but
Oh yes, we are. So we're adding kind of drawbacks. We're adding certain elements to each of these innates to make them not always the right answer.
balance.
And so
You know
yeah,
what I mean, you gotta balance it
And so the mech suit will actually slow your movement speed
significantly.
significantly. You'll have a 30% move speed reduction whenever that exosuit's active.
Yeah.
So it's going to be something that's really good for holding a position. It's going to be something that's good to kind of like push people away, but you're not really going to be able to chase people down in it. You're not really going to be able to get away in it.
And it makes sense from a, you've got a giant mech suit on, it's probably going to slow you down a little bit. But it does make you stronger, so catch no tooth.
So it looks like they're trying to focus down Mark again. They're actually doing pretty successful, and they've actually taken him down really quickly.
Yeah, that was fast this time.
Yeah.
So Stephen, I salute you if you can pull this one off, my friend. Another thing to point out is that our shields in our game, those regenerate over a certain time if you're not being hit. That's correct?
That is correct. And also the engineer has a couple of ways of regenerating shields themselves. They have the shield bot, which regenerates shields, and they have a few other abilities that will actually regenerate shields.
All right, man, come on. You got to use.
He looks like he's being a hero.
Nice.
Are you being a hero,
Oh
Stephen?
man,
I'm trying.
Don't miss that skill shot. Good job.
well done. So this is close.
This is actually, I think Stephen's got him. At this point, he's
Oh, that was a good pull though.
oh.
So we just
Use
spawned in
those
a bot.
cooldowns.
We're hopefully getting him out. Now you're hanging out to
Oh,
get some heals as well.
he's
This is really close. He's not going to let you have
Stephen
this,
doesn't
man.
have the damage for this, does
Oh.
he? No.
Oh, Stephen.
You
I
let
had
that
faith in you.
was Nick Roth that just
Nick Roth, you did a good job there.
yeah, Nick.
That was a close fight. But the interesting thing here is it would be kind of boring if it was just one-sided. This guy winning all the time.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing it.
That's why I mean the balance in this game is perfect. Can never get any better. So
That quote is going to be used now against us. What have you done, man?
I don't-
What have you done? So let's ask some more questions here while Stephen gets his res on. Are engineer bots pets controllable by the player completely, or do they just do their own thing, or some combination from Tygon?
it's a combination. So once you have them out, you have stances that you can put your bots into. It looks like we're actually getting ready to go into a dungeon here. So just so you know, be ready for it.
man.
Duels are over, dungeon time. But yeah, the bots, you can control them by telling them to do their special abilities. You can tell them to attack a specific target. You can tell them to go to a location. And you can put them in stances like aggressive, defensive, passive.
Right.
And then depending on that stance, they'll kind of behave the way that you would expect them to.
Sure.
With those stances.
So Tygon had a follow-up. Are bots healable, buffable? Can they do tanking in a group, or are they more like off-tank bots?
So they're not really ever going to fully tank for you in a dungeon. They're going to kind of distract mobs for a short while, but dungeon mobs are really strong, and they will do tons of damage, and a bot's not going to be able to stand up to that. So you have to use a combination of yourself plus your bot to go through some of the encounters.
As a side note, I will say that a lot of people will give us feedback. You know, we'll read the comments and videos and stuff. They'll say, don't telegraphs make everything super easy? And the dungeons are pretty much proof that that is not the case.
Yeah, pretty much.
They are insane in dungeons. They're all over the place. It's not just a simple like, oh, I'm going to memorize it 2 minutes in. He's going to do this attack, so I can just hang out in this area and be
safe. And even outside of dungeons, in our just open world content, we've done the recent update that really increases the damage of telegraph. So if you're standing you're going to take punishment.
Right.
And actually, David Bass, our community manager, he was talking about how he never realized how often he was standing in telegraphs while questing until we made this update.
Yep. No, that sounds about right. So hey, we're in Kelvareth. This is a new dungeon that we haven't really shown a lot of. We talked about it a bit, and if you've been paying attention to some of our media stuff, we've been doing that. But we're going to get to our introductions here. So let's look through the group here. First spot here, we have our Spellslinger, I believe.
I believe so.
Yeah.
It's
so
very dark. Why don't we? Maybe we could turn around and face into the lighted area, because we can't actually see these guys right now in this section.
They're shadowy figures.
There's shadowy darkness.
We'll pull it back here.
They can't hear us.
They don't even know what's
going
on.
So we'll just do it.
Let's just do it. These shadowy figures. We have our Spellslinger.
Yeah.
It's coming in. Yeah. Looking good. So that's going to be our DPS. Next up, we have our Orin, I believe, Esper healer.
Yep, that is our Orin Esper.
Look at that.
That is
I think it's
Mercall.
Yeah, he's going to be doing that. Next up, we have our medic DPS. We're not going to be doing heals with this one. We're going to be doing DPS to show the variety here. And finally, we have our Stalker DPS. Yeah, slicing up. That's David Bass.
Yeah, and that would mean that our why don't we get going, guys? Why don't we jump into this?
Yeah.
That'd mean our medic is Brett, and our Spellslinger is Nick from those duels earlier.
Yeah. So what we're looking at here, this is Kelvareth. These are a bunch of huge Osen. Osen are these big baddies that were left on Nexus after the Elden just suddenly disappeared. And they're these gargantuan, hulking badasses.
Hold your horses, guys. We got to, before we jump in there, we better show off this tanking build.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that for a second. So, Stephen, show us the difference between the tanking build and what we were looking at earlier in PvP.
In PvP?
So the first one we have flat cannon.
So the first one we have is flat cannon. It's your basic attack. After a short charge up, you channel for a bit. Does an extreme amount of damage.
Extreme,
bro. Yeah. A lot of damage.
Now we have Bioshell. Bioshell hits a target in that line and explodes, or explodes at the end of that line, as you can see from the telegraph. I'll show it off.
It's a long cast time. It's something really good for pulling.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It fires and explodes, and then it debuffs technology resistance, which is great for when we dueled the and the medic was with me because he does technology damage.
Right.
We have give him the gas.
We'll see that when we're going.
Yeah. Give him the gas also, like Bioshell. Explodes at the target or at the end, and then it leaves an area of
like
field. Leaves a field, a circular field that debuffs their chance to hit other people. We have particle ejector, which is a channel. It's much like electrocute, except I can't use it right now because no volatility.
Gotcha. Next up,
Zap. We've used it before. Sun.
Quick interrupt.
Yep, quick interrupt. This is our blind.
Boom. Structure.
Boom. We have Bruiser Bot here.
Yes, and Bruiser Bot does what exactly?
Bruiser Bot is the one that is the more of a tanking pet.
Gotcha.
I can command it to go and taunt and interrupt targets every 30 seconds.
Perfect.
And we have the Repair Bot, which you saw in the duel. It healed shields on command.
Which is definitely clutch if you're a tank and you need some extra help if your healer is not pulling his weight.
Yeah.
and/or her weight. So let's get to this.
Yep, we're in. Go ahead and start pulling.
Yeah, you are the tank, my friend. So let's get it started.
All right, I'm gonna summon my bots first, and let's
Sweet.
do this.
Now watch out for these traps here. You'll see these little kind of white pointy things out of the ground there. Those are
Oh, I
actually
missed.
bones, and they will snare baddies if you can see right there. But it also snare you if you get into them.
Or
so.
your bots. It's actually kind of difficult to navigate this area as an engineer with your bots and making sure they don't get stuck in those traps.
So Stephan's job here is to try to get as much threat as possible and make sure that all the enemies are focusing their attacks on him and his bots.
Yeah, and it's unique as an engineer because you have that pretty big range. You're able to pick up ads fairly easily as an engineer.
So you got to be kind of cautious in this area when you're doing this stuff.
Yeah, you do have to be cautious. The area is fairly large, but some of the times when you're in tighter spaces, you have to be careful with your attacks not to pull additional.
So you'll also notice that some of the other members of the team are actually using these bone traps to their advantage as well. They're kind of running them by and getting those mobs snared in there, and it hurts them for a little bit. So it's a good use of the environmental hazards and some smart gameplay.
It actually is really useful in the boss fight that will be coming up in a little bit here.
Yes, most definitely.
Looks like we have a couple questions coming in.
All right, very good. So how do you feel the engineer being a ranged tank will affect boss positioning for melee and ranged DPS?
So I would guess that as the engineer is moving around and he has these mobs coming at him, the players that are doing range DPS are going to have to be really mindful of where that tank's location is, because he could inadvertently drag those mobs right on top of one of his DPS. So you got to kind of keep an eye. You're always going to keep an eye on your tank, but
Right.
as a engineer in your group, you're
Gotta
going
be
to
mindful.
you're not going to want him to come over to where you're at.
So we just pulled Grond the Corpse Maker out, which is one of the most badass names that we have in this game, by the way. Grond the Corpse Maker. So this guy is one of the bosses that we're going to fight here in Calvareth. So Stephan's going to get us started by using one of his pulling abilities. Now the thing about Grond here is he has a lot of melee attacks, but he also has a lot of movement stuff where he's going to just jump randomly around the area. So you got to be really paying attention. The other thing, now let's talk about the differences here between, say, like a warrior tank.
Well, to actually answer a question that just came in also is they were asking about, does an engineer always have to rely on kiting? And you can kind of see here that the engineer doesn't have to do that. He has this heavy armor, he has ways of restoring health and debuffing enemies and stuff like that. So he is able to stand toe-to-toe with a boss, and we expect him to do that often. Right. It's just that in those situations like right now, Stephan could be getting out of the way and using his abilities while the boss is standing in place.
No, certainly. So he's getting, he's got a good team with him this time. You can
Yeah,
tell
they're taking him down fast.
They're taking him down fast, and he's also getting healed, so he's doing a good job. And yeah, you'll notice you can play this differently. If we wanted to stay back really far away, we could. If we want to just stay in the damage. Stephan's been getting hit with a lot of telegraphs. He's not really avoiding as much. But we do want to look out for stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
that armor is forgiving.
now Grond has a nasty itch, is what we just read across
Yeah.
the screen.
Oh, do you want to hear the joke that I came up with in our rehearsal?
Wait.
It's like, well, it's like he's like an 18th century pirate or ship person. He's got scurvy. He's got scurvy.
And
That's
please.
good, right?
As you notice, I just used my pet to taunt the boss off of me to give my healer a little bit of a respite.
Nice.
Well done.
Yeah, and I included respite in the...
And you're even able to do
you
it
did.
while you're tanking.
That synonym, well done.
Yes.
Well done. So also, again, we can use these bone traps when those fleas come out, and they'll actually kill the fleas, so it's a good use to kind of kite those guys through there. But you got to watch out for the bucking bronco here of death. That's almost
So
killing
the telegraphs that you're saying he wasn't able to avoid, those are the cleaves. Those aren't actually really even avoidable very easily.
Fair enough.
Because those are just basically his cleave attack that he's going to do all the time. It looks like they won.
Hey, well done, guys.
Thank
That
you.
was a solid run.
Yeah.
I'm proud of all y'all.
Again, look at the pro. I used my bruiser bot to take aggro when I needed it.
Right. Well done. Maybe Jade should check that out.
And to
you know what I mean?
remind people, this is a level 20 dungeon. This is the first encounter that you will ever come across as a boss encounter as a Dominion, potentially.
Yes. Yeah, this is the first fight. I think you can start it around level 15 or 17. I can't remember which. But yeah, this one that is a lot different from, say, Stormtown, which we've run in the previous live streams, where that one was a lot more restricted. This one is open, massive, huge. We wanted to have variants in a lot of our dungeons to make it feel like this is an epic experience, and it's not just, you know, I'm in a corridor for 20 hours straight.
Oh, there's one other disclaimer I wanted to call out. You'll notice, like, pretty much throughout this whole stream, Stephan has had 8 abilities on his bar, and including his innate. That's not normally what you would have at these lower levels, but we wanted to make sure that we could show off a huge variety during the stream.
Most definitely. So, Stephan, also, if you could give us a view of the landscape here. This is a big dungeon for level 20. So you can go through the area. You can actually shut down those laser beams that are going throughout the area as well if you want to shut those off. It's a pretty cool environment. So let's take another question. Will the engineer have a bigger shield than other tank classes? Asks Ladressa.
That's actually going to depend on where you spend your amps. It's going to depend on your gear, everything like that. But just by itself, innately, no, an engineer doesn't have a larger shield pool than anybody else.
See, now look at what we're doing here. If you can use those environmental hazards, those will fall over bad guys as well. So if we're using positions, being smart. You also have to be precise there in the middle of that. That was a pretty
You got to pick up those ads, Stephan. They're going all over your group.
Oh, man.
I think you should load up another taunt on your bar, personally.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about replacing my my bots and going for a couple taunts.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that?
So while we do that, let's take another question. Can the max range of engineer attacks be extended through amps, like the Spellslinger?
At the moment, there aren't any amps or ability tiers that increase the range of an engineer attacks. Are there, Stephan? I don't believe there are.
No, not right now.
No.
Yeah. No, the upgrades that the engineer have, just for example, we'll say a couple of the tiers, we're adding some things that if you tier up.
Well, actually, before we get into that, what are amps, in case people don't know what an amp is?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. So the amp system is one of our many ways that you can customize your class, make them a little bit unique compared to other people, and make them play the way that you want them to. It's a talent trees of sorts. It's you can increase stats, you can unlock new abilities, and you can also add new proc events that happen while you are playing the game.
Okay, very cool. And those are customizable pretty much throughout your level.
Yeah, once you hit level 6, you unlock the amp system, and then you gain 1 amp power every level all the way up to 50. And then once you get to 50, you're also able to unlock more amp power through the Elder game.
Yeah. So Elder game is a big focus for us here on WildStar. We always hate it when you're playing an MMO and you get to level cap and there's nothing left to do. So we have a lot of stuff in store, not only for games like dungeons and PvP and all that stuff, but also these systems, so amps, ability tiers, and all that stuff. There's no way you can get all those things by the time that you get to level 50, so you're going to have to spend time at level cap actually doing that stuff.
Yeah. And so the other system that I was talking about was ability tiers, which is the ways that you can make your abilities stronger. You can increase the power. And so some of the ways that the engineer increases the power is you actually, like say, for example, BioShell.
Yeah.
When you first get that ability, it's going to do the same amount of damage when you hit a target. An amp might increase it so that if you're at high volatility, it will do more damage. So it's just a way of making you think about your ability rotation.
Very cool. So let's take another question while these guys continue to kick ass here in the dungeon. Will 2 engineers in a PvP group be able to stack their taunts and reduce damage to each other and everyone else in the group?
So certain stacks or certain taunts will stack, certain taunts will not stack. So it's really going to depend on an ability by ability basis, and that's something that we're going to be paying attention to as we do balance in the game.
And again, this is a never-ending thing for us. We're going to be continually updating these abilities and changing them and balancing them to make sure that we're, trying to get it to where all these classes are even keel on DPS level or tank. We have multiple roles per class, so it's definitely an arduous task.
Yeah,
but it's a fun one, I think.
When you add in the tiers, we have something over 1,000 different spell files that we have to manage all times. And you know what actually gets me kind of excited is we had another one of our meetings about post-launch plans earlier this week, and talking about that stuff is awesome because this is a living game. We're going to be updating it as we go, and so there's stuff that I want to change. There's stuff that I want to add, and we'll be able to do that eventually. And so it's awesome.
We plan on having content coming in continuously, so month after month, there's something for you to do. There's always something new. It's not going to be like, oh, well, I got to wait 6 months for some huge patch or something like that. We're going to have something continuously month after month.
Yep.
So let's take another question. Can bots be healed by other classes? and will they be shown on the group raid UI for healers?
So with our default raid UI, they're not going to show up. They're not like a super heavy portion of the engineer's strength, so they're not as important as some of the other classes pets. Like the engineer is still really beefy without bots, so we didn't think it was necessary to include them in the group raid frames.
Wasn't vital, yeah.
Yeah, but we do have a very moddable UI system, so I'm sure that people creating raid UIs that include that pet UI, and yes, healers are able to heal the bots from a engineer, and but we actually do something that's kind of interesting. We prioritize players, so we make it so that if a player and a bot are standing next to each other and a healer tries to heal them with something that only heals one target, it'll heal the player instead.
Okay, very cool. So I also, again, have to point out how well these guys are doing in this dungeon. They're just cleaning house with this stuff, using their abilities correctly, getting these guys taunted, and DPS guys handling their business. So well done.
Thank you.
Yes. Well done, Stephen Angle.
Thank you, sir.
So we're going to get through a couple more of these, and then I think we're going to get close to wrapping it up here.
I think so.
Because we've covered a lot today.
We have.
Let's do like a wrap-up right now. What are the key takeaways that anybody watching this stream right now need to know about the engineer?
Well, if you want somebody that's really heavy duty, that can fight at a range but isn't glass cannon, if you like robots, if you like giant mech suits, if you
like tanking, if you like DPS,
if you like DPS, the engineer might be the class for you.
If you like calling in orbital strikes on multiple people, man. So that's a lot of stuff that we covered today, and I think it's a pretty cool class. Thank you everybody for checking out our live stream today. We highly appreciate it. If you want to check us out on social media, we're all over the place with the Twitter and the Facebook and all that fun stuff. So thank you once again. Stephen Angle, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, it was a pleasure. I'm sorry that we didn't get you more FaceTime, buddy, but
you know what?
It was a pleasure.
I've got an ugly mug. I don't care.
How dare you?
I also want to thank the crew
You're
here.
beautiful.
I want to thank the crew here.
Everybody here that's been doing the live streams for the past 6 weeks here.
A lot of them put in more effort than we do. We kind of just show up.
We just show up and
talk,
say funny words and sometimes bad words.
But all of us here are, we're still making the game. We're still working pretty heavy weeks to get this game out the door,
and ultimately, thank you for tuning in, checking us out. Tell your friends about WildStar because this game is perfect for playing with your friends. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you after the Christmas break for the Stalker live stream. Have a good one, guys.
Take care.